Hare Krishna. In this video, we will be studying the topic of abortion from the lens of the Vedic scriptures. And to spice things up a little bit, we will be reacting to a very popular news host, Palki Sharma. She has posted a video about 4 years ago in 2021 advocating for abortion rights for women. So, better late than never. Here we go. This is a very important subject because the scale of it is colossal. Let's jump straight into it. So 73 million induced abortions take place worldwide every year. Let's put that into perspective. So total deaths excluding abortions, because in the deaths they don't count abortions at all. So the entire all other deaths put together worldwide in 2024 was 62 million. Abortions 73 million. The problem is people do not consider this abortion as a kill or a murder. So we have to understand the reality of the situation, and no other source describes it as perfectly as our Vedic scriptures. Here's another statistics for you. Deaths, world events versus annual abortions. Annual abortions is key there. The word annual is every year. First World War, estimated deaths, 20 million. Second World War, 75 million. COVID-19, 7 million. Well, the reporting of it is, that's a whole subject. But the official figures are this, 7 million. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because as we remember, that is one of the most significant destructive events of the 20th century and of known mankind in modern history, right? One day with 2 bombs, the upper limit of the estimate is 210,000 people died. It's considered the darkest day of the 20th century, according to many estimations. After that, it was never used on human beings. And look at that number of abortions per year, 73 million, almost as much as the World War II. So there is a world war against babies at the present moment, but we don't feel it like a war, we don't feel it like destruction. Because why? Because of how it is conducted and how it is conveyed to people in general. So people are made to believe that this is not killing. Therefore, it's not destruction. Everything is safe, everything is fine. So this is a much more dangerous war because the atomic bomb, the destruction is palpable, is perceivable, is visible. So it's easy to notice. But when the destruction happens in such a decentralized way all over the world, under language that is benign and under laws passed by human beings in various countries, it looks all legal and nothing really wrong. So these are the numbers, 73 million per year. If you divide that, 200,000 abortions per day. So it's like dropping a nuclear bomb every single day. That's how much destruction is going on. Children are being killed. There's a famous quote, the pen is mightier than the sword. Well, I would say the pen is mightier than the nuclear bomb.
Abortion. One word, 8 letters. Never has a word so simple been so difficult to utter in public or speak about at a dinner table.
It's easy for her to utter the word abortion because her parents were kind enough not to abort her. Remember that, that's a fact. Every abortion activist is able to protest only because he or she wasn't aborted. That's the plain, simple fact. Having said that, I'm actually on the same page with her, but just for the opposite reason. She said abortion, so difficult to utter in public or at a dinner table. Yeah, I agree with her. We should talk more about it so that we understand the actual evil of it. And we should speak about it from the perspective of the Vedas, because from the Vedas, we get perfect knowledge. If you don't believe, I will just present to you in this video how perfect the knowledge is that comes from the Vedic scriptures. This hush hush, don't talk about it, this won't help. This will enable the false propaganda that abortion is just fine. We all agree that human life is valuable. But then why do we abort? Why do we kill the baby in the womb? Why do we kill the child in the womb? Because we don't think that is human. That's the problem.
An abortion is a procedure to end a pregnancy.
Abortion is a medical procedure to end a pregnancy. These are loaded words. What is pregnancy and what is that procedure to end it? So pregnancy, the period in which a fetus develops inside a woman's womb or uterus. But what is a fetus? Let's unpack that word now. Fetus, an offspring of a human or other mammal in the stages of prenatal development that follow the embryo stage. In humans, taken as beginning 8 weeks after conception. That part in the blue brackets, why in humans it is taken as beginning 8 weeks after conception, but in other mammals it is at conception? Why? The deception is beginning to show. There is no scientific basis for that 8 weeks thing. Two more loaded words here: offspring and embryo. So we're going to unpack those words now. Offspring, a person's child or children. So now what is a fetus? An offspring. That means a fetus is a child. But they say this offspring or something spring, some tissue, whatever. It doesn't make you think that it is actually a person. That's the whole point. Hide between these words, layers of words. We're going to explore the actual truth of the matter. But even looking at their own definitions, if we unpack, we cannot hide from the truth. That was offspring. Then embryo. What is embryo? Embryo, the early development stage of an animal or human while it is in the egg or within the uterus of the mother. So an embryo is the child, a different stage of development, and the fetus is another stage of development of the same child. A child is a person. These are the different stages. So the prenatal stages of development of life are the zygote, embryo, and fetus. And then there are the postnatal stages of development, which is infant, toddler, child, adolescent, adult, elderly, and finally death. So the first cell is called the zygote, and there the DNA gets coded, and all the development that happens after that is informed by that DNA, and it goes into embryo stage and then fetus stage, and then eventually the birth happens. Birth means the child comes out of the womb of the mother. The same child who was inside comes out, that's all, and continues to develop until it becomes an adult. Srimad Bhagavatam, the greatest scripture known to man, 11:22-47. Nisheka garbha janmani balya kaumara yauvanam vayo madhyam jaramrityur ityavasthas. Impregnation, gestation, birth, infancy, childhood, youth, middle age, old age, and death are the 9 stages of the body. So here it is implicit that impregnation and gestation are part of the development of the body. They are the different stages, the first 2 stages of development of the body. That means a human body is considered a human body from the time of impregnation. It's not that the fetus is a potential baby. No, it is the baby.
How is it done? By using medicine or surgery to remove the embryo or the fetus and placenta from the uterus.
We have seen what the embryo is and what the fetus is. They are just baby. So removing the baby and placenta from the uterus. When you say remove, like remove the child from the cradle. No. Here, removing from the uterus means removing from the only place where he can actually survive. That means killing him. And they're saying the word is used medicine or surgery. Important. Medicine. Oh, surgery. That's benign. Oh, that's nice. Medicine. Let's see actually what happens. Okay, here is an illustration. And the child, as you can see, has the exact shape of a human being, and that's how he's going to come out as well, eventually. So he's growing there. What is the placenta? The placenta is an organ that forms in the womb during pregnancy. The placenta is connected to a developing baby by a tube-like structure called the umbilical cord. Through the umbilical cord, the placenta provides oxygen and nutrients to a developing baby. It also removes waste from the baby's blood. So this is a description from a medical organization, Mayo Clinic, and they keep referring to the fetus or embryo as the baby. You see, developing baby, baby's blood, and here also developing baby. So it is a baby. Can you kill a baby? You can't. It is criminal. But when the baby is within the womb of the mother, why can you kill them? Question to ask. Matur jagdhanna panadyair etad dhatur asammate shete vinmutrayor garte sajantur jantu sambhave. Deriving its nutrition from the food and drink taken by the mother, the fetus grows and remains in that abominable residence of stools and urine, which is the breeding place of all kinds of worms. So this is the description within the womb, how it is. It's a very dark place, yes. It's a very hellish place inside. And at the same time, by the magic of God, by the magic of Krishna, the baby is nourished and the body is developed within the womb. Look at this science. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which was written 5,000 years ago. And this particular verse was spoken at least 2 billion years ago. That's how far ahead our Vedic science is. Okay, this is another verse from Markandeya Puran. Nadi chapyayani nama nabhyam tasya nibadhyate strinam tathantra shushire sanibadhopajayate. The umbilical cord, called the apyayani, is fixed to the navel of the child, and it originates from the placenta of the mother. This is the level of detail of knowledge that we have in our Vedic scriptures. Now, the next verse in the Markandeya Puran says, Kamanti bhukta pitani strinam garbhodare yatha tairapyayita dehosau jantur vridhim upaitivai. As the mother's food and drink penetrate the womb, the fetus being thus nourished increases in size. So placenta is formed for nourishing the child, as we have seen from medical establishments and also in our scriptures. And you remove that. You remove the only source of nourishment for the child, and you remove the child itself. And not just remove, how he's removed, we will come to see. I'm going to show you everything today in this video. Now, she used the word medicine. Sounds like something that can cure you of a disease, right? What is medicine? Definition: a drug or other preparation for the treatment or prevention of disease. Is the child a disease? Look at how horrible the language is now. You are saying that the embryo or fetus is a disease and the placenta is a disease that you need to treat. What? Next, surgery. The branch of medical practice that treats injuries, diseases, and deformities by the physical removal, repair, or readjustment of organs and tissues, often involving cutting into the body. Is the child a deformity? Is he a disease? Or is he an injury to the mother? So here, I want to introduce you to a person called Dr. Anthony Levatino. He is a doctor who has committed over 1,200 abortions. And after that, he became a Catholic and he stopped abortions, and now he's advocating for not having abortions.
My name is Dr. Anthony Levatino. I'm a practicing obstetrician gynecologist, and I performed over 1,200 abortions.
So the 9 months of pregnancy is usually divided into first trimester, 3 months, second 3 months, and the last 3 months to categorize the different stages of development. So we will look into how abortion is done in each of these different stages of development.
First, I'm going to describe a first trimester medical abortion. This is a procedure in which the mother swallows pills in order to terminate her baby, and it is performed up to the 9th week of pregnancy. The procedure involves 2 steps. Step 1. At the abortion clinic or doctor's office, the woman takes pills which contain mifepristone, also called RU46. RU46 blocks the action of a hormone called progesterone. Progesterone is naturally produced in the mother's body to stabilize the lining of the uterus. When RU46 blocks progesterone, the lining of the mother's uterus breaks down, cutting off blood and nourishment to the baby, who then dies inside the mother's womb. It is important to note that even after it has been taken, it is possible to reverse the effects of RU46 and save the baby if progesterone is administered. The sooner, the better. Step 2. 24 to 48 hours after taking RU46, the woman takes misoprostol, also called CITED, that is administered either orally or vaginally. RU46 and misoprostol together cause severe cramping, contractions, and often heavy bleeding to force the dead baby out of the woman's uterus. The process can be very intense and painful, and the bleeding and contractions can last from a few hours to several days. While she could lose her baby anytime and anywhere during this process, the woman will often sit on a toilet as she prepares to expel the child, which she will then flush. She may even see her dead baby within the pregnancy sac. At 9 weeks, for example, the baby will be almost an inch long, and if she looks carefully, she might be able to count the fingers and toes.
Now let's look at first trimester surgical abortion.
First trimester surgical abortion called suction D&C, dilatation and curettage. This is the most frequently performed abortion and is used typically from 5 to 13 weeks of pregnancy. After administering anesthesia, the abortionist uses a speculum like this. This is placed inside the vagina and opened using this screw on the side, allowing the abortionist to see the cervix, the entrance to the uterus. The cervix acts as a gate that stays closed for the duration of pregnancy, protecting the baby until it is ready for birth. The abortionist uses a series of metal rods called dilators, like these, which increase in thickness, and inserts them into the cervix to dilate it, gaining access to the inside of the uterus where the baby resides. The baby has a heartbeat, fingers, toes, arms, and legs, but its bones are still weak and fragile. The abortionist takes a suction catheter like this one. This is a 14 French suction catheter. It's clear plastic, about 9 inches long, and it has a hole through the center. It is inserted through the cervix into the uterus. The suction machine is then turned on with a force 10 to 20 times more powerful than your household vacuum cleaner. The baby is rapidly torn apart by the force of the suction, and squeeze through this tubing down into the suction machine, followed by the placenta. Though the uterus is mostly emptied at this point, one of the risks of a suction D&C is incomplete abortion. Essentially, pieces of the baby or placenta left behind. This can lead to infection or bleeding. In an attempt to prevent this, the abortionist uses a curette to scrape a lining of the uterus. The curette is basically a long-handled curved blade. Once the uterus is empty, the speculum is removed and the abortion is complete.
You call that surgery or an absolute murder, dismemberment of the child, just torn apart. I hate to use these words, surgery and medicine. That's what they use. Let's go to the second trimester abortion procedure.
Second trimester surgical abortion called dilatation and evacuation, or D&E. A D&E is performed between 13 and 24 weeks of pregnancy. After administering anesthesia, the abortionist uses a weighted speculum, like this one, that opens the vagina widely. Because second trimester babies are so large, this greater access facilitates a late-term abortion. Late-term abortion requires that the cervix be prepared 24 to 48 hours in advance with laminaria. Laminaria is a type of sterilized seaweed that absorbs water over 8 to 12 hours and swells to several times its original diameter. Once removed, metal dilators can be used to further open the cervix as needed. Once the cervix has been stretched open, the suction tube is placed inside. A baby at 20 weeks gestation is as big as the length of my hand, from head to rump, not counting the legs. The suction machine is turned on, and pale yellow amniotic fluid surrounding the baby is suctioned out through the catheters. With babies this big, they don't fit through catheters this size. The baby's bones and skull are too strong to be torn apart by suction alone. This is a Sofer clamp. A Sofer clamp is made of stainless steel. It's about 13 inches long. The business end is about 2.5 inches long and 1/2 inch wide, and there are rows of sharp teeth. This is a grasping instrument. When it gets a hold of something, it does not let go. The abortionist uses this clamp to grasp an arm or leg. Once he has a firm grip, the abortionist pulls hard in order to tear the limb from the baby's body. One by one, the rest of the limbs are removed, along with the intestines, the spine, and the heart and lungs. Usually the most difficult part of the procedure is extracting the baby's head, which is about the size of a large plum at 20 weeks. The head is grasped and crushed. The abortionist knows he has crushed the skull when a white substance comes out of the cervix. This was the baby's brains. The abortionist then removes skull pieces. He removes the placenta and any leftover parts of the baby with a curette, scraping the lining of the uterus for any remaining tissue. The abortionist then collects the baby parts and reassembles them to make sure that there are 2 arms, 2 legs, and all the pieces. Once all the parts have been accounted for, the abortion is complete.
What to even say? It becomes more and more palpable, visible, and more grotesque when the size of the baby becomes bigger and bigger. But actually, it's essentially the exact same thing in all stages of life. Completely destroying the entire body of the baby, the delicate body of the baby, and calling that abortion, a medical procedure, surgery, medicine. And underneath all those benign words is such cruelty that is unimaginable. Imagine if an adult is pulled apart like this. There was this movie called The Kashmir Files. It depicts what happened in 1991 when there was a horrible genocide that happened in the Kashmir. And there was one scene in that movie wherein the mother was sawed half, from head to the genitalia. She was sawed on a table, the circular saw. She was just passed through the whole thing. She was just cut open like that in front of her young son, boy. As grotesque as that is. But this is going on every single day. 200,000 of them. One has to be an absolute barbarian to say that that is surgery and that is medicine and that's health care. Where is the health? Where is the care? The health is finished of that child. He's dead. And where is the care? Let's look at the third trimester abortion.
Finally, I'm going to describe a third trimester induced abortion, which is performed at 25 weeks to term. At this point, the baby is almost fully developed and viable, meaning he or she could survive outside the womb if the mother were to go into labor prematurely. Because the baby is so large and developed, this procedure takes 3 or 4 days to complete. On day 1, the abortionist uses a large needle to inject a drug called digoxin. Digoxin is generally used to treat heart problems, but a high enough dosage of digoxin will cause fatal cardiac arrest. The abortionist inserts the needle with the digoxin through the woman's abdomen or through her vagina and into the baby, targeting either the head, torso, or heart. The baby will feel it. Babies at this stage feel pain. When the needle pierces the baby's body and the digoxin takes effect, the life of the baby will end. The abortionist then inserts multiple sticks of seaweed called laminaria into the woman's cervix. They will slowly open up the cervix for delivery of a stillborn baby. While the woman waits for the laminaria to dilate her cervix, she carries her dead baby inside of her for 2 to 3 days. On day 2, the abortionist replaces the laminaria and may perform a second ultrasound to ensure the baby is dead. If the child is still alive, he administers another lethal dose of digoxin. The woman then goes back to where she is staying while her cervix continues to dilate. If she goes into labor and is unable to make it to the clinic in time, she will give birth at home or in a hotel. In this case, she may be advised to deliver her baby into a bathroom toilet. The abortionist then comes to remove the baby and clean up. If she can make it to the clinic, she will do so during her severest contractions and deliver her dead son or daughter. If the baby does not come out whole, then the procedure becomes a D&E, a dilation and evacuation, and the abortionist uses clamps and forceps to dismember the baby, piece by piece. Once the placenta and all the body parts have been removed, the abortion is complete.
This is third trimester abortion. An injection to induce heart attack, a cardiac arrest for the baby. And you call that medicine? Oh, it's just an injection. Oh, it's just a pill. Oh, it's just a vacuum cleaner. Is this called medical procedure to terminate a pregnancy? You see those words that we used? Oh, it's just an embryo or a fetus. To make it sound like it's not a person. It's a tissue, just removal of a tissue. There's nothing, don't see there, there's nothing going on. The baby has a fetal heartbeat. And even the medical practitioners are taught to become numb to it. Otherwise, they wouldn't pass their examinations. So we've just seen what that medicine and surgery is. Putting that poison pill, tear the baby's body apart with that vacuum cleaner. The third trimester, there's that injection, which basically induces a cardiac arrest for the baby, basically giving it a heart attack. You know, these are just gruesome, barbaric, demoniac. I'm at a loss for words to describe such a gruesome murder. Any mother actually who does this is not a mother. She's a murderer. And she's hiring a hitman she calls a gynecologist, or who calls himself or herself a gynecologist, who is actually a hitman to kill her own child. Helpless child. Picturize that in the head. How dark. In fact, I'd like to show you something. So in the Krishna Leela, the first demoness who tried to kill Krishna was Pūtanā. So Pūtanā was ordered by Kamsa to kill all babies that were recently born. If Krishna is one of them, then he will be killed in that, because Kamsa did not know where Krishna was. So Pūtanā went about doing that. Pūtanā's job was to kill babies, and that's a demoness. Anyone who advocates the killing of babies is a witch or a demon like her. I'm sorry, I'm quoting Shastra. And you see how Pūtanā gained access to the babies as well. Through deception, she came in the form of a beautiful maiden. So women let their guard down and allowed her to enter into their homes. And there she ostensibly wanted to nurse the baby. She would just poison her breast and then kill the baby. So she tried the same thing with Krishna. Of course, Krishna killed her. You see, Pūtanā accessed the babies through deception, ostensibly to help, but to actually kill. That's the same parallel that the abortionists are doing in the guise of healthcare professionals. Oh, we're taking care of your health. We are protecting women's rights. We are protecting women's privacy. So they come in this deceptive guise of as if wanting to help. But what they're actually doing is they're killing the child and throwing the woman to hell. So even their modus operandi is the same as that of Pūtanā. I don't think even Pūtanā killed her own baby.
It's true that a fetus is human life. But then so is a sperm before it fertilizes, or the ovum before it's fertilized. Human hair is living, and so is the human nail. You see, there's a difference between killing a life and killing a person.
This is where the argument really falls apart pretty badly. Multiple issues with this statement. Let's unpack all of that. So let's come to the first problem. Fetus is not in the same category of sperm, ovum, nail, hair, or nails. Okay, here's a quiz for you. Pick the odd one out. Fetus, sperm, ovum, hair, nail. It's the fetus. Why so? Fetus has a different DNA than the father and mother, also a heartbeat of his or her own. Sperm has the same DNA base as the man, ovum has the same DNA base as the woman, and there's no heartbeat of its own. Hair, same DNA as the person, nails, same DNA as the person, and no heartbeat of its own. There's a separate heartbeat for the fetus, and there's an absolute new DNA, which is formed right at conception. Vyakta vyaktam bhavatyuta yatha yoni yatha bijam. The living entity or child inherits bodily features and traits according to the mother and father. So the DNA is different from conception. Not that 8 weeks after conception, 24 weeks after conception. No. So the Markandeya Puran says, Nishekam manavastrinam bijam proktam rajasyatha vimuktamatro narakat svargadvapi prapadyate. Impelled by sex desire, a man impregnates a woman. At the moment of seminal discharge into the womb, a suitable soul from either heaven or hell takes shelter of the globule that is formed. So the suitable soul is made to enter into the womb either from heaven or hell or another human body, whichever. It's a very complicated arrangement. What we see is just a slice of what is actually happening, as I've underlined here. At the moment of seminal discharge into the womb, the suitable soul takes shelter. So until then, the sperm and ovum by themselves have no soul in them. When they're joined together, that's when the soul comes in. So that's the beginning of human life. Let's look at the second and third problems. So life is not a person. This is the root of the problem. It's a factual inaccuracy. Life is a person. So life should not be confused with the symptoms of life. A growing nail, a growing hair is the symptom by which we can ascertain that the soul is within the body. This verse explains, Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grihnati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So this is an illustration, a simple illustration. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantrarudhani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. So this body is like a machine or set of clothes. So that's what it's compared to. And the Atma is the driver or the person who puts on the clothes. So why am I saying all these things? Identifying life by its symptoms. Garments are not alive. When a person wears them, they are animated. Cars or machines are not alive. When a person moves them by a button or advanced programming, they are animated. Similarly, none of the bodily parts, including hair, nails, semen, and ovum, are alive by themselves. The entire body is electrified and animated by the soul seated within. When the soul leaves the body at what is known as death, the body becomes inanimate. Like my clothes move with me wherever I go, but the clothes are not alive just because they're moving. Similarly, a hair is growing. That does not mean it's alive. No, it's not life. The animated body is the evidence of the presence of life, the Atma. Without the Atma, the body shows its true lifeless nature. So the Atma is always alive and the body is always dead. But when the Atma comes into the body seems to be alive. So this is the truth. Fetus is a stage of development of the body of another Atma with its own DNA. It's a symptom of another life. We cannot just kick him out of there. So there is a very grand arrangement for the movement of the living entities within this material world. And we are just talking about one slice of that, which is birth, especially within the womb. So when one does not know things, one should not be confident of teaching others. She does not know what she's talking about. Instead of actually researching things and asking the right questions in order to be sincerely curious about actually what's happening, no, she is very quick to peddle a narrative, even though there is pieces of evidence that are not making much sense and not questioning them enough. That's not journalism. That's some absolute nonsense activism.
Have you noticed one thing? A lot of these countries that outlaw abortion happen to be in Latin America, a region where the Catholic Church also has immense influence. The Catholic Church believes abortion is murder. The Catechism of the Catholic Church states, since the 1st century, the Church has affirmed the moral evil of every procured abortion. There was very limited knowledge of human embryology when the Didache and the Letter of Barnabas were written. They date back to the 1st and the 2nd century. The ovum was discovered only in 1827.
So basically, she is blaming religion, which she thinks is outdated, and is not relevant, and that scientific advancement has changed the understanding, and now we're in this different age of enlightenment, is what she thinks. When God speaks, he does not make mistakes. So, Brahma Pramad Vipralipsa Karana Patav Ishwarer Vakya Nahi Dosha Esab Arsha Vignya Vakya Nahi Dosha Esab. The material defects of mistakes, illusions, cheating, and sensory inefficiency do not exist in the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the authoritative self-realized sages. We should not blindly accept knowledge coming from any source, but when it is the perfect source, God himself, we should accept. If we compare modern science versus Vedic science, ovum was discovered in 1827 and fetal imaging began in 1956. Vedic science says human embryology was perfectly known in much greater detail for billions and trillions of years.
Some point out that a fetus feels pain during abortion. The truth is, it does not. Pain or sensation of any kind is felt by the fetus only around 26 weeks of pregnancy. The upper limit for abortion is 24 weeks.
So does that mean just because the fetus cannot feel pain, you can kill him? If somebody is sleeping and I just go and shoot him, he did not feel anything, he just died. So is that okay? So Srimad Bhagavatam says, Panchabhe Kshutrid Udbhavaha. At the end of 5 months, hunger and thirst make themselves felt. 5 months corresponds to 21 to 22 weeks. This was spoken 2 billion years ago. Our Vedic science is light years ahead of modern science. What else do we know about our Vedic embryology? What happens in the womb? Well, let's take a brief lesson on Vedic embryology. Okay, a lesson in Vedic embryology. कर्मणादैव नेत्रेण जन्तुर्देहोपपत्तये स्त्रियाः प्रविष्ट उदरं पुंसो रेतः कणाश्रयः. Under the supervision of the Supreme Lord and according to the result of his work, the living entity, the soul, is made to enter into the womb of a woman through the particle of male semen to assume a particular type of body. Kalalam tvekaratreణ pancharatreణ budbudam dashahen tu karkandhuh peshyandam va tatah param. On the first night, the sperm and ovum mix, and on the 5th night, the mixture ferments into a bubble. On the 10th night, it develops into a form like a plum, and after that, it gradually turns into a lump of flesh or an egg, as the case may be. Masena tu shirodvabhyam bahvanghryadyanga vigrahah nakhalomasti charmani linga chidrodbhavastribhi. In the course of a month, a head is formed, and at the end of 2 months, the hands, feet, and other limbs take shape. By the end of 3 months, the nails, fingers, toes, body hair, bones, and skin appear, as do the organ of generation and the other apertures in the body, namely the eyes, nostrils, ears, mouth, and anus. Fetal imaging can detect the baby's presence only at about 6 to 7 weeks of pregnancy. But this is so much more advanced. Chaturbhirdhatavah sapta panchabhih kshutradudbhavah षड्भिर्जरायुणावीतः Kukshau Bhramyati Dakshine. Within 4 months from the date of conception, the 7 essential ingredients of the body, namely chyle, blood, flesh, fat, bone, marrow, and semen, come into existence. At the end of 5 months, hunger and thirst make themselves felt, and at the end of 6 months, the fetus, enclosed by the amnion, begins to move on the right side of the abdomen. मातुर्जग्धान्नपानाद्यैर्एधद्धातुरसम्मते शेते विण्मूत्रयोर्गर्ते सजन्तुर्जन्तुसम्भवे. Deriving its nutrition from the food and drink taken by the mother, the fetus grows and remains in that abominable residence of stools and urine, which is the breeding place of all kinds of worms. Markandeya Puran. Nadi chapyayani nama nabhyam tasya nibadhyate strinam tathantra shushire Sanibaddhopajayate. The umbilical cord, called apyayani, is fixed on one end to the navel of the child. The other end is fixed to the abdomen of the mother. So the other end is actually the placenta. Kramanti bhukta pitani strinam garbhodare yatha tairapyayita dehosau jantur vridhim upaiti vai. As a woman's food and drink does penetrate into the womb through the umbilical cord, the child is thus nourished and grows. कृमिभिः क्षत सर्वांगः सौकुमार्यात् प्रतिक्षणं मूर्छाम् आपनोत्युरुक्लेशस्तत्रत्यैः Kshudhitairmuhuh, bitten again and again all over the body by the hungry worms in the abdomen itself, the child suffers terrible agony because of his tenderness. He thus becomes unconscious moment after moment because of the terrible condition. Katutikshnoshna lavana ruksham ladibhirulbanaih matrabhuktair upasprishtaha sarvangothita vedanah. Owing to the mother's eating bitter, pungent foodstuffs or food which is too salty or too sour, the body of the child incessantly suffers pains which are almost intolerable. Ulbena samritastasmin antraischa bahiravritah Aste kritva shirah kukshau bhugna prishtha shirodharah. Placed within the amnion and covered outside by the intestines, the child remains lying on one side of the abdomen, his head turned towards his belly and his back and neck arched like a bow. There's an interesting thing that Prabhupada mentions in the purport of this verse, that according to which side of the abdomen the child moves, experts can say that, whether it's a boy or a girl. If it moves to the right side, it's a boy, left side, it's a girl. So there's no need of even scanning to see whether it's a boy or a girl. Akalpah swanga cheshtayam shakunta iva panjare तत्र लब्ध स्मृतिर्दैवात् कर्म जन्म शतोद्भवम् स्मरन् दीर्घम् अनुच्छ्वासं शर्म किं नाम विन्दते. So this is now very, very important, because modern science has zero knowledge about it. Zero knowledge. It cannot be proven by modern science because modern science is very limited. Some things it has come to prove, but these truths were truths even before 1956. Before the fetal imaging has started. Just because our modern science did not catch up yet does not mean we should reject the Vedic science just because it is not corroborated by modern science. Our Vedic science is always true. Maybe in thousands and millions of years, so-called modern science may come to the point of understanding, yeah, that is true. But it is always true. The child thus remains just like a bird in a cage without freedom of movement. At that time, if the child is fortunate, he can remember all the troubles of his past 100 births, and he grieves wretchedly. What is the possibility of peace of mind in that condition? We can't deal with the problems that we have in this life. And some people actually try to commit suicide even. But 100 births worth of trouble is reminded. And we have all been through this. Remember that. When we were in the womb of our mother, we went through this. Now we may think, how is it possible that we can remember the past lives and we can even pray to the Lord? It's the Lord who gives this intelligence. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mattah smritir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So we forget by the dictation of the Lord our past lives. And we can remember also by the dictation of the Lord. With the Lord, there is the full memory of what we have done. Now, He can bestow some of that to us if He wants to. And that's what happens to the child in the womb of the mother. Arabhya saptaman masa labdha bodhopi vepitah naikatraste sutivater vishtha bhuri vasodarah. Thus endowed with the development of consciousness, from the 7th month after his conception, the child is tossed downward by the airs that press the embryo during the weeks preceding delivery. Like the worms born of the same filthy abdominal cavity, he cannot remain in one place. At least in South India, there is a function that is conducted among the women for the woman who is who just attained the 7th month of pregnancy. Seemantam, I think they call it. Now, many people won't know what it is, but here is the description of what exactly happens in that 7th month of pregnancy. From the 7th month, the consciousness develops. Until then, the child was unconscious. But when the consciousness comes, he is made to remember all of his past 100 lifetimes. Nathamana rishirbhitah sapta vadhrihi kritanjalihi stuvitatam viklavaya vachayeno darerpitah. The living entity in this frightful condition of life, bound by 7 layers of material ingredients, prays with folded hands, appealing to the Lord who has put him in that condition. And if you see the posture of the child, he will be like that, arched like a bow, and with folded hands he prays. He's praying like this in his thoughts. Tasyopasannamavitum jagadichhayatta nanatanor bhuvi chalat charanarvindam Soham vrajami sharanam hyakuto bhayam me yene drishi gatiradarshya sato nurupa. The human soul says, I take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in his various eternal forms and walks on the surface of the world. I take shelter of him only because he can give me relief from all fear, and from him I have received this condition of life, which is just befitting my impious activities. Now, he not only knows about the past 100 lifetimes, but he's also reminded of the presence of the Lord. And he's praying so eloquently. You may say, how is this possible? This is possible. By the grace of the Lord, anything is possible. Yastvatra baddha iva karma bhiravritatma bhutendriyashayamayin avalamya mayam aste vishuddhama vikaram akhanda bodham atapyamana hridaye vasitam namami. I, the pure soul, appearing now bound by my activities, am lying in the womb of my mother by the arrangement of Maya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him who is also here with me, but who is unaffected and changeless. He is unlimited, but he is perceived in the repentant heart. To him I offer my respectful obeisances. Such a beautiful, beautiful prayer. Dehyanya deha vivare jatharagnina srig विण्मूत्रकोपपतितो भृशतप्तदेहः इच्छन्नितो विवसितुं गणयन् स्वमासान् निर्वास्यते कृपणधीर्भगवन् कदानु. Fallen into a pool of blood, stool, and urine within the abdomen of his mother, his own body scorched by the mother's gastric fire. The embodied soul, anxious to get out, counts his months and prays, O my Lord, when shall I, a wretched soul, be released from this confinement? Yene drishim gatimasau dashamasya isha sangrahitah purudayena bhavadrishena स्वेनैव तुष्यतु कृतेन सदेन नाथः को नाम तत्प्रतिविनाञ्जलिमस्य कुर्यात्. My dear Lord, by your causeless mercy, I am awakened to consciousness, although I am only 10 months old. For this causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the friend of all fallen souls, there is no way to express my gratitude but to pray with folded hands. पश्यत्ययं धिषणयाननुसप्तवध्रिः शारीरकेदमशरीर्यपरः स्वदेहे यत्सृष्टया समतमहं पुरुषं पुराणं पश्ये बहिर्हृदि च चैत्यमिव प्रतीतम्. The living entity in another type of body sees only by instinct. He knows only the agreeable and disagreeable sense perceptions of that particular body. But I have a body in which I can control my senses and can understand my destination. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whom I have been blessed with this body, and by whose grace I can see him within and without. Soham vasannapi vibho bahu dukhavasam गर्भान्न निर्जिगमिषे बहिरन्धकूपे यत्रोपयातमुपसर्पति देवमाया मिथ्यामतिर्यदनुसंसृतिचक्रमेतत्. Therefore, my Lord, although I am living in a terrible condition, I do not wish to depart from my mother's abdomen to fall again into the blind well of materialistic life. Your external energy called Devamaya at once captures the newly born child, and immediately false identification, which is the beginning of the cycle of continual birth and death, begins. That means until the time of birth, the child remembers, but once the birth happens, Maya just completely covers the child and he forgets. We forgot everything. So this is reading from the purport of that verse. As long as the child is within the womb of his mother, he is in a very precarious and horrible condition of life. But the benefit is that he revives pure consciousness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord and prays for deliverance. This false egoistic consciousness of I am this body at once develops after the child comes out of the womb. The mother and other relatives are awaiting the child, and as soon as he is born, the mother feeds him and everyone takes care of him. the living entity soon forgets his position and becomes entangled in bodily relationships. This is how Maya works. We only see this part of our life and other children's lives. We have no clue that they and we remembered our past 100 lifetimes in the womb of our mother. So continuing in the purport, by the influence of Maya, the external energy of Krishna, one forgets everything just after birth. Therefore, the child is praying that he prefers to remain within the womb rather than come out. It is said that Shukadeva Goswami, on this consideration, remained for 16 years within the womb of his mother. He did not want to be entangled in false bodily identification. He chose a painful life of remembrance than a comfortable life of forgetfulness. Jumping to another section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, just to corroborate the same point. Utpatyaiva hi kameshu praneshu svajaneshu cha asaktamanaso martya atmanonartha hetushu. Simply by material birth, human beings become attached within their minds to personal sense gratification, long duration of life, sense activities, bodily strength, sexual potency, and friends and family. Their minds are thus absorbed in that which defeats their actual self-interest. So now coming back to that section of the prayers of the child within the womb. Tasmadaham vigata viklava uddharishya atmanamashu tamasah suhridatmanaiva bhuyo yatha vyasaname tadaneka mame bhavishadupasadita vishnupadah. Therefore, without being agitated anymore, I shall deliver myself from the darkness of nescience with the help of my friend, clear consciousness. Simply by keeping the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu in my mind, I shall be saved from entering into the wombs of many mothers for repeated birth and death. Next verse. Kapila Uvacha Evam Kritamatir Dashamasya Hastuvan Rishihi Sadyah Kshipatyavachinam Prasutyai Sutimarutaha. Lord Kapila is actually Krishna's incarnation. Lord Kapila continued, the 10-month-old living entity has these desires even while in the womb. But while he thus extols the Lord, the wind that helps parturition propels him forth with his face turned downward so that he may be born. Parturition means the wind, the air within the mother's body, which is called apanavayu, the downward moving air. Suti marutaha. Suti means birth. Maruta means air. The air that facilitates the birth, the coming out of the child. As he's praying, he's pushed down. As we try to become Krishna conscious, Maya will push us back into illusion. Tena vasrishtah sahasa kritva vak shira aturah vinishkramati krichrena niruchvaso hatasmritihi. Pushed downward all of a sudden by the wind, the child comes out with great trouble, head downward, breathless, and deprived of memory due to severe agony. Hatasmritihi. All that memory is wiped out, clean, by severe agony. Sometimes when people have a traumatic accident or something like that, they lose their memory of their past completely sometimes. Sometimes they lose the memory of just that event which happened, that accident, but sometimes they may lose the entire memory of the past. So that's exactly what happens to us. So reading on, Patito bhuvyasran mishraha vishtha bhuri vacheshtate roruyati gate jnane viparitam gatim gatah. The child thus falls on the ground smeared with stool and blood and plays just like a worm germinated from the stool. He loses his superior knowledge and cries under the spell of Maya. Now we are going to some descriptions from the Garbhopanishad. Shukra Shonita Samyogad Avartate Garbho Hridi Vyavastham Nayati. By the combination of semen and blood, the embryo is born and its growth is regulated by the heart of both the mother and the embryos. So, the heart of the baby is already mentioned in the Garbhopanishad. Garbha means womb, Upanishad means Vedic scripture, which brings us closer to the Lord. This is Shruti Vakya. This is the level of knowledge that is there in our Vedic scriptures. Please read them. Pitu retoti riktat purusho bhavati matuhu retoti riktat striyo bhavanti ubhayor bija tulyatvan napumsako bhavati. During sexual intercourse, if the father's secretion is more, the child would be male. If the mother's secretion is more, the child would be female. And if they are equal and intersexual, neither male nor female would be born. This is a very, very rare birth, intersexual. Napumsaka. व्याकुलितमनसोऽन्धाः खञ्जाः कुब्जा वामना भवन्ति अन्योन्यवायु परिपीडित शुक्र द्वैध्या द्विधा tanuh स्यात् ततो युग्माः प्रजायन्ते. If at the time of impregnation the parents are agitated, the child may be blind, crippled, hunchbacked, or dwarfed. If the vital air moves around, the semen enters in two parts, resulting in twins. You see how much detailed knowledge is there. The condition of the parents at the time of conception greatly influences the life of the child. Panchatmakah samarthah पंचात्मक तेजसे धरसश्च सम्यक् ज्ञानात् ध्यानात् अक्षरम् ओंकारं चिन्तयति तद एकाक्षरं ज्ञात्वाष्टौ प्रकृतयः षोडश विकाराः शरीरे तस्यैव देहिनाम्. Enabled by the gross body made of the five elements, the intelligence is awakened and he meditates on the imperishable syllable Om. With the knowledge of Omkara, he understands the 8 material ingredients and their 16 transformations of the embodied living entity. What these 8 material ingredients are, they're all described in the Bhagavad Gita. The 5 gross elements, the 3 subtle elements. अथ नवमे मासि सर्वलक्षण संपूर्णो भवति पूर्वजाति स्मरति कृताकृतं च कर्म विभाति शुभाशुभम च कर्म विन्दति. During the 9th month, all outer signs attain completeness, and he is reminded of his previous births and recounts the auspicious and inauspicious deeds committed by him. नाना योनि सहस्राणि दृष्ट्वा चैव ततो मया आहारा विविधा भुक्त्वा पीताश्च विविधाः स्तनाः. This is a prayer by the child in the womb. The child within the womb thinks, I have seen thousands of wombs, eaten several kinds of food, and sucked the breasts of many mothers. Jatasyaiva mritasyaiva janma chaiva punah punah aho dukkho dadhau magnah na pashyami pratikriyam yanmaya parijanasyartho kritam karma shubhashubham ekakitena dahyami gataste phalabhoginah. He thinks further, taking birth and dying again and again, I am immersed in grief, but I see no remedy. Thinking of my good and bad deeds, I am suffering alone, although the bodies that enjoyed the fruits are gone. See, he did so many things in his past lives for the satisfaction of his senses, but those senses and the bodies have all gone. Who is suffering? The soul. We have eaten all kinds of things for the satisfaction of the tongue, but the tongue is gone at the time of death. The sinful reaction remains with the soul. Yadi yonyam pramunchami sankhya yogam samashraye ashubhakshaya kartaram phalamukti pradayakam yadi yonyam pramunchami tam prapadye maheshwaram ashubhakshaya kartaram phalamukti pradayakam. When I get out of this womb, I shall take refuge in the theistic Sankhya Yoga, which destroys misery and yields liberation. When I get out of this womb, I shall take refuge in the Supreme Lord who destroys misery and grants liberation. This Sankhya Yoga means this theistic philosophy of the Vedas, analytically studying why this creation was made, for what purpose, why are we here, what happens before birth, what happens after death, how is our body constructed, for what it is constructed, why am I trapped here. Everything analytically studying this whole thing from the Vedas, that is the Sankhya Yoga. We should take shelter of this science. We have promised this to the Lord in the womb. We have now forgotten this. Yadi yonyam pramunchami tam prapadye bhagavantam narayanam devam ashubhakshaya kartaram phalamukti pradayakam yadi yonyam pramunchami dhyaye brahma sanatanam. When I get out of this womb, I shall take refuge in Narayana who destroys misery and grants liberation. When I get out of this womb, I will meditate on the eternal supreme Brahman. So you see how he is repeating those words. Yadi yonyam pramunchami, yadi yonyam pramunchami, yadi yonyam pramunchami. When I get out of this womb, I shall do this, I shall do that, I shall do this. We have promised so many things, so many times. Atajantuh stri yoni shatam, yoni dvare samprapto, yantrena pidyamano mahata dukkhena, jatamatrastu vaishnavena vayuna, samsprishyate tadana smarati janma maranam nacha karma shubha shubham. When he reaches the birth canal and comes out of it with great difficulty, he is touched by the spell of the Lord Vishnu's Maya that causes him to forget the previous births and deaths and the good and bad deeds performed in those lives. Jatamatrastu. The moment we take birth, Vaishnavena Vayuna, Vaishnavi, Maya is called Vaishnavi. Vaishnavena Vayuna, by the air of parturition and by the influence of Maya, completely we forget all those births and the activities. And while the child is going through this, if the mother kills the child, how horrible of a crime that is. Because yes, he's suffering, but then when he comes into this human form of life, he has the chance to end his suffering once and for all. If he contacts the pure devotees of Krishna, and if he reads the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, if he chants the holy name of Krishna, he can easily cross the ocean of birth and death. But that chance is being withheld from that child. And that's the violence here. Now let's study the Vedic signs of twins a little bit. So Garbhopanishad says, Anyonya Vayu Paripidita Shukra Dvaidhya Dvidhatanuh Syat Tato Yugmaha Prajayante. If at the time of impregnation the vital air moves around, the semen enters in two parts, resulting in twins. Now there is more detail to this. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 3:17-18, Kashyapa Prajapati, he impregnates his wife Diti. Because of his mystic vision, he can already see, he first of all knows that there are two sons there, twins, there are two twins, both are boys, what kind of men they will become in their lives, everything he could see. Without any X-ray, CT scan, this on ultrasound and all this. So let's look at this verse, a very interesting verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prajapatirnama tayorakarshid yah prak swadehad yamayorajayata tam vai hiranya kashipum viduh praja yam tam hiranyaksham asuta sagratah. Prajapati Kashyapa, the creator of the living entities, gave his twin sons their names. The one who was born first, he named Hiranyaksha, and the one who was first conceived by Diti, he named Hiranyakashipu. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, there is an authoritative Vedic literature called Pinda Siddhi. When I did some research, it is actually called Siddha Siddhanta Paddhati. Sometimes some people refer to it as Pinda Siddhi, in which the scientific understanding of pregnancy is very nicely described. It is stated that when the male secretion enters the menstrual flux in the uterus in two successive drops, the mother develops two embryos in her womb and she brings forth twins in the reverse order to that in which they were first conceived. The child conceived first is born later and the one conceived later is brought forth first. The first child conceived in the womb lives behind the second child. So when birth takes place, the second child appears first and the first child appears second. See the detail of this. How can you not marvel at such signs? In this case, it is understood that Hiranyaksha, the second child conceived, was delivered first, whereas Hiranyakashipu, the child who was behind him, having been conceived first, was born second. Very interesting, right? Very interesting. This is a small detail that I just inserted into this video so that, you have some extra bit of knowledge there. Okay, now we'll go into another section, which is learning within the womb. So 3 examples I'm going to go through. Prahlad Maharaj, Maharaj Parikshit, and Shukdev Goswami. So let's look at Prahlad Maharaj. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 7.7.15, it is said, this is spoken by Prahlad Maharaj, Rishih karunikastasyaha pradad ubhayamishvarah dharmasya tattvam jnanam cha mamapyuddishya nirmalam. Prahlad Maharaj said, Narad Muni delivered his instructions both to me, who was within the womb, and to my mother, who was engaged in rendering him service. This is a very interesting incident in which Prahlad Maharaj, after having come out, he remembers what happened while he was within the womb of his mother. And he remembers that Narad Muni spoke and he heard it very clearly. And he remembers those instructions. Tattu kalasya dirghatvat stritvan matustiro dadhe Rishinanugrihitam mam nadhunapya jahat smritihi. Prahlad Maharaj continued, because of the long duration of time that has passed and because of her being a woman and therefore less intelligent, my mother has forgotten all those instructions. But the great sage Narada blessed me and therefore I could not forget them even up to today. Now, some people may say, oh, this is sexist. Oh, being a woman and therefore less intelligent? Well, there is truth to that. But we are not fighting women or we are not condescending upon them. We actually want to help women. In fact, I'm making this video to help women. Otherwise, they're going to hell by doing this abortion. And I'm even helping Palki Sharma here. If she can take this knowledge and make another video with the proper understanding, she will be absolved of the sinful reaction for advocating abortion. Don't get us wrong that, oh, woman and therefore less. These are scriptural words by Krishna himself. and by Prahlad Maharaj, who is a realized soul. These are truths. But that does not mean that women should be discriminated against. They should be helped. So, next example, Parikshit Maharaj. Sa esha loke vikhyatah parikshiditi yat prabhuh purvam drishtvam anudhyayan pariksheta nareshviha. He would become famous in the world as Parikshit, examiner, because he would come to examine all human beings in his search after that personality whom he saw before his birth. Thus, he would come to constantly contemplate him. The thing about his life is that, this is a picture of Parikshit. Parikshit witnesses Lord Vishnu while in the womb of his mother Uttara, the wife of Abhimanyu. Now, this is the background of what has happened, why he saw the Lord Vishnu within the womb. So, this was the incidents preceding that. As soon as he seated himself on the chariot to start for Dwaraka, he saw Uttara hurrying toward him in fear. This is Krishna. Krishna was going to Dwaraka from Hastinapur after the battle of Kurukshetra was finished. Krishna stayed for some time with Yudhishthir Maharaj and the Pandavas. Krishna was thinking of going to Dwaraka. As soon as he seated himself on the chariot to start for Dwaraka, his kingdom, he saw Uttara, Abhimanyu's wife. Abhimanyu is Arjuna's son. Abhimanyu was killed in the battlefield, but Uttara, she was a widow, but she was pregnant with a child, and the child's name was Parikshit. He was, of course, named Parikshit after he was born, but the child was in the womb. So he saw Uttara hurrying toward him in fear. So Uttara said to the Lord, O Lord of Lords, Lord of the universe, you are the greatest of mystics. Please protect me, for there is no one else who can save me from the clutches of death in this world of duality. She said, O my Lord, you are all powerful. A fiery iron arrow is coming towards me fast. My Lord, let it burn me personally if you so desire, but please do not let it burn and abort my embryo. Please do me this favor, my Lord. Two things. First is that iron arrow. Actually, it's a Brahmastra. Brahmastra is the Vedic nuclear weapon, which is so powerful that by incantation of a mantra, an arrow can be made into a nuclear weapon. This science is unknown to modern man, but also, more importantly, that nuclear weapon can be targeted to just one person, to kill that person, to ensure the death of that person, without harming the person next to him. That kind of limiting the entire force of that weapon to just one person, like a guided missile. Just by mantra, it can be guided to that particular person. And that was coming. That's one. The second part of this verse is that Uttara is praying, let it burn me personally, if you so desire, but please do not let it burn and abort my embryo. She is teaching how a mother should be prepared to, even if there is a complication, sometimes there is pregnancy complications, the mother should be willing to give her own life up for the sake of the child. She is showing the example of the perfect mother. She should protect the child so much so that she should be prepared to even exchange her own life for the life of the child. That's the sacrifice of the mother. That is what a real mother is. Not that for the sake of my life, I shall kill the child. That's not a mother. That's a murderer. A mother is absolutely selfless. For the child's life, in absolute helplessness, she went to the Lord, but she did not ask for her own protection. Please protect. Let it not be aborted. That's a real mother. Suta Goswami said, having patiently heard her words, Lord Sri Krishna, who is always very affectionate to his devotees, could at once understand that Ashwathama, the son of Dronacharya, had thrown the Brahmastra to finish the last life in the Pandava family. And Uttara was asking for the child to be protected also because he was the last child of the dynasty. So to continue the dynasty, to rule the world with righteous principles, you need a person who is qualified. So reading on, the Almighty Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, having observed that a great danger was befalling his unalloyed devotees who were fully surrendered souls, at once took up his Sudarshan disc to protect them. So he decided to protect them, means both the mother and the child. The Lord of Supreme Mysticism, Sri Krishna, resides within everyone's heart as the Paramatma. As such, just to protect the progeny of the Kuru dynasty, he covered the embryo of Uttara by his personal energy. So he went inside the womb of Uttara. Of course, he was also sitting outside, but at the same time, he also entered inside and covered the womb of Uttara to protect it from the Brahmastra. O Shaunaka, glory of Bhrigu's family, although the supreme Brahmastra weapon released by Ashwathama was irresistible and without check or counteraction, it was neutralized and foiled when confronted by the strength of Vishnu, Lord Krishna. Sa esha loke vikhyatah parikshiditi yat prabhuh purvam drashtam anudhyayan pariksheta nareshviha. So that child, when he was born, so the jata karma was being done. That means the astrological calculations were being narrated to the family members. And Yudhishthir Maharaj wanted to know what kind of a child he would be. The description was like this, that he would become famous in the world as Parikshit, examiner, because he would come to examine all human beings in his search after that personality whom he saw before his birth. Thus, he would come to constantly contemplate him. So, Parikshit's another name is Vishnurata. He was protected by Vishnu. So, because he was protected by Vishnu when he was in the womb of his mother, at that time he saw that personality, that beautiful personality, Lord Vishnu, with Chaturbhuj, four-handed form. He could not take his eyes off him. But of course, the Lord became, after the Brahmastra was counteracted, the Lord disappeared. So, when he came out, he was always looking for that person. Who is that person that I saw within the womb? So he would examine every one of them. Where is that beautiful personality? So and that's why Pariksha means exam. Parikshit means examiner. So that's why he's called Parikshit. Such a beautiful name, such a beautiful history behind his name. Third example, Shukadeva Goswami, learning within the womb. According to Brahma Vaivarta Puran, Srila Shukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul even within the womb of his mother. By the influence of Maya, the external energy, one forgets everything just after birth. Therefore, the child is praying that he prefers to remain within the womb rather than come out. It is said that Shukadeva Goswami, on this consideration, remained for 16 years within the womb of his mother. He did not want to be entangled in false bodily identification. After cultivating such knowledge within the womb of his mother, he came out at the end of 16 years and immediately left home so that he might not be captured by the influence of Maya. Shukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, is described in great detail in the Brahma Vaivarta Puran. There it is said that Vyasadeva maintained the daughter of Jabali as his wife, and that after they performed penances together for many years, he placed his seed in her womb. The child remained in the womb of his mother for 12 years, and when the father asked the son to come out, the son replied that he would not come out unless he were completely liberated from the influence of Maya. Vyasadeva then assured the child that he would not be influenced by Maya, but the child did not believe his father, for the father was still attached to his wife and children. Vyasadeva then went to Dwarka and informed the personality of Godhead about his problem, and the personality of Godhead, at Vyasadev's request, went to Vyasadev's cottage, where he assured the child in the womb that he would not be influenced by Maya. Thus assured, the child came out, but he immediately went away as a Parivrajaka. There is also modern science which is beginning to show that this is true. And I'll show you just a small clip in which this lady describes this.
Well, today I want to present to you an idea that may be surprising, that may even seem implausible, but which is supported by the latest evidence from psychology and biology. And that is that some of the most important learning we ever do happens before we're born, while we're still in the womb.
I have left a link in the description of this video. You can watch this entire video. It's very interesting that they are also beginning to understand in a very crude way, nearly not as elaborate and sophisticated as the knowledge that is found in the Vedic literature, but they are just beginning to now realize that learning starts in the womb of the mother, which is why abortion is an absolute no-no. Okay, so now we will return to that Palki Sharma's rant.
Who gave religious leaders the authority to dictate motherhood?
Excuse me, how is it motherhood when you are killing the child? That's murderhood. That's not motherhood, that's murderhood. So you can't even call that motherhood. A lady is not a mother if she's killing her child. A mother would sacrifice herself for the child. That is mother. That is real mother, like Uttara did. Don't come and use the word motherhood when you're killing the child. Religion and motherhood. What is the connection? Firstly, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Real religious principles are legislated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedanta krit veda videva chaham. I am the compiler of Vedanta and I am the knower of the Vedas. So God is the compiler of religious principles. Where are the religious principles? The laws for humankind. Veda pranihito dharmo hyadharmastad viparyayah. Vedo narayanah sakshat swayambhuriti shushruma. That which is prescribed in the Vedas constitutes dharma, the religious principles, and the opposite of that is irreligion. The Vedas are directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana and are self-born. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita says, Tasmat shastram pramanam te karya vyavasthitau jnatva shastra vidhanoktam karma kartum iharhasi. One should understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. Just like in our modern context, we understand what we can do and what we cannot do according to the constitution of the country, the law book of the country. So the original law book for all human society are the Vedic scriptures. Manusmriti, the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Puranas, the Itihasas. These are the books that originally are the law books for mankind. Now, why we should listen to religious leaders? Now, according to Vedic scriptures, religious leaders are actually Brahmanas. The leaders of the society are supposed to be religious and they're called the Brahmana class of people. Now, in other parts of the world, even if they may not call them Brahmanas per se, the nomenclature, but they do the same duties. So essentially, that is the Brahmana's duty. The Bhagavatam explains very nicely why religious leaders have to dictate every single aspect of human life, including motherhood, because they know what the scriptures say. And if we follow the scriptures, then we will lead a sinless life, and our future, we can actually go back to Godhead, after this life. So therefore, everybody must abide by these injunctions, and the Brahmanas should study these Vedic scriptures and enlighten the public about them, like what we are attempting to do here in this video. Because he speaks from the Vedic scriptures, which are the words of the Supreme Lord Narayana, he is equal to the mouth of Narayana, the Brahmanas. So this is why, who are religious leaders to dictate motherhood? Yes, they have every right to dictate motherhood. And for your benefit, that too. For the mother's benefit, for the child's benefit. Purushasya mukham brahma kshatram etasya bahavaha urvor vaishyo bhagavatah padbhyam shudro vyajayata. Purusha Sukta also has, Rigveda mantra also has this description. The Brahmanas represent the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Kshatriyas his arms, the Vaishyas his thighs, and the Shudras are born of his legs. Everybody is important, but even if you comparatively analyze, Brahmanas are more important. Qualified Brahmanas, not the birth-based Brahmanas, because they direct the entire rest of the population to lead a sinless life. There's direction to civilization when the Brahmanas, qualified Brahmanas, are in charge of the advisory board for the king. So Bhagavad Gita 4:13, Krishna says, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagashaha. According to the qualities acquired, sattva, rajas, tamas, and the work associated with them, the human society is divided into 4 divisions, namely Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So according to quality and work, it is not said here according to Janma. Guna karma vibhagashaha, not Janma vibhagashaha. Then Srimad Bhagavatam 7:11-35, Narad Muni says, Yasya yallakshanam proktam pumso varnabhivyanjakam yadanyatrapi drishyeta tattenaiva vinirdishet. If one shows the symptoms of being a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, even if he has appeared in a different class, he should be accepted according to those symptoms of classification, merit-based. So these are the qualities of the Brahmana. Shamo damastapah shaucham kshantirarjavamevacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahmakarma swabhavajam. So those people who have these qualities are called Brahmanas. Not one who has taken birth in a Brahmin family is a Brahmana. No, never. He has to have these qualities. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. So Padma Purana also says, what is the domain of work for the Brahmanas? Shat karma nipuno vipraha. A scholarly Brahmana is expert in the 6 activities. Pathan, studying Vedic literature. Pathan, teaching others the Vedic literature. Yajan, performing rites for his own purification. Yajan, performing rites for the purification of others. Pratigraha, accepting alms in charity. And Dana, distribution of wealth in charity. So Pathan, Pathan, Yajan, Yajan, Dana, Pratigraha. The rites for one's own purification is Japa. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. On the beads, we have these beads, mala, and chanting the holy names of Krishna, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, on these beads for one's own purification is called yajan. And to perform kirtan with musical instruments so that everyone can hear the holy name, that is called yajan. Performing rituals for others' purification. Distributing books that contain the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam to others, that is yajan. So therefore, it is his duty to dictate motherhood. Now Bhagavad Gita 9:17. Pitahamasya jagato mata dhata pitamaha. Krishna is the original father. Krishna says, I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. So Krishna is saying, I am the original father and mother of everyone. So this so-called father and mother are designated by the Supreme Lord to take care of the Atma. So they are deployed by the Supreme Lord to do work on his behalf. He is the original mother and father. So we have to conduct ourselves according to his wish. Who are we to dictate motherhood and fatherhood? We have to know from the Lord. And because the Brahmanas repeat the message of the Lord, that's why we have to hear the Brahmanas, the religious leaders, who quote from the scriptures. If they don't quote from the scriptures, that is not proper guidance. They have to quote from the scriptures and guide the entire humanity on this very safe path of religiousness. That's how human society should be conducted. Otherwise, it's just a horrible animal society. Animals are actually better than this. In the animal kingdom, you won't find this. where the mother kills her own child. You will see in the animal kingdom, the mother ferociously protects her offspring. Unfortunately, human beings who are irreligious, they will go to such an extent that they become lesser than animals. Gurur na sasyat, swajano na sasyat, pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat, daivam na tatsyan, na patischa sasyan, namochayedyah samupeta mrityum. One who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death. Means if he cannot give moksha, liberation, from the path of repeated birth and death, so one who cannot do that should never become a spiritual master, guru, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod, or even a king. So we should not accept these responsible posts when we cannot ensure liberation for the dependents. So a human being, the child who will take birth, has a chance to associate with devotees and make his life perfect. So by terminating the body in the womb, one is denying that person the chance of a human life, where he can perfect his life and go back to Godhead. So a mother should think of how to deliver the child, not just deliver from her own womb, but deliver the child from the womb of this material universe and give the child actual liberation, moksha. That's the duty of a real mother. Ahara nidra bhayamaithunam cha सामान्यमेतत् पशुभिर्नराणां धर्मो हि तेषाम् अधिको विशेषो धर्मेण हीनाः पशुभिः समानाः. धर्मेण हीनाः पशुभिः समानाः. Eating, sleeping, sex, and defense. These four principles are common to both human beings and animals. The distinction between human life and animal life is that a man can search after God, but an animal cannot. That is the difference. Therefore, a man without that urge for searching after God is no better than an animal. In fact, as I just proved it, we are worse than animals. Animals at least protect, the mother protects the child and gives her life to protect her child. But unfortunately, in human life, the mother pays someone to kill the child, especially in this Kali Yuga. It's just become so horrible. Ashitim chaturashchaiva lakshamstan jivajatishu brahmadbhi purushaihi prapyam manusyam janma pariyayat. One attains the rare human form of life after transmigrating through 8,400,000 species of life by the process of gradual evolution. Tadapya phalatam jatah teshamatma bhimaninam varakanam anashritya Govinda Charanadvayam. That rare and valuable human life is spoiled for those conceited fools who do not take shelter at the two lotus feet of Govinda. What exactly is violence? This is very, very important to understand here. Bhagavad Gita tells us, actually nobody can kill anyone. Ya enam vetti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhautau na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate. Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge, for the self slays not, nor is slain. So, where is the sin in abortion then? Next verse says, Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuyah ajo nityah shashvatoyam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Veda vinashinam nityam ya enam ajamavyayam katham sapurushah partha kam ghatayati hantikam. How can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakah na chainam kledayantyapo nashoshayati marutah. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. This is an excerpt from Srila Prabhupada's recorded conversation on 23rd January 1977 in Bhubaneswar, India. Rameshwar, one of the disciples of Prabhupada, he mentions this. You have already defined violence as anything which does not save a man from repeated birth and death. That is violence. This is the ultimate definition of violence, because you're letting him suffer in this material world. It's not just some blood shed and that is violence. No. Prabhupada, yes, violence. I take it in this way that you have got right to possess this. If I do not allow you to possess, that is violent. Somehow or other I check it. That is violence. Harishori, yes, we have a natural right to understand God. Prabhupada, yes. There is natural right and they are checking. That is violence. To check one from his rightful position is violence. That is called himsa. Krishna therefore says, Amanitvam adambhitvam ahimsa. Bhagavad Gita 13:8. You should not check anybody from his natural advancement in his spiritual life. That is ahimsa. Satsvarup. What about the platform of just not killing anyone? Is there any credit to that? If I just don't kill anyone, I'm ahimsa, I'm non-violent, I'm not killing anyone. Is that ahimsa? Prabhupada is saying, you are not killed. That is explaining Bhagavad Gita. Who kills and who is killed? You are anyway not killed. By not killing, that is not ahimsa. You are anyway not killed. The soul is never killed. That is not ahimsa. See, this is the real definition of ahimsa. What is actually himsa? This verse says, Nirdehamadyam sulabham sudurlabham plavam sukalpam guru karnadharam mayanukulena nabhasvateritam puman bhavabdhim nataretsa atmaha. Atmaha. The human body, which can award all benefit in life, is automatically obtained by the laws of nature, although it is a very rare achievement. This human body can be compared to a perfectly constructed boat, having the spiritual master as the captain and the instructions of the personality of Godhead as favorable winds, impelling it on its course. Considering all these advantages, a human being who does not utilize his human life to cross the ocean of material existence must be considered the killer of his own soul. Human body is a perfectly constructed boat to cross the ocean of material existence, and the guru is considered the captain of the ship. Nowadays, many people don't even have guru, or some namesake guru they have, useless. Real guru is the captain, and the instructions of Krishna are the favorable winds that impel it on its course to the destination of the kingdom of God. We have all these advantages, but considering all these advantages, if a human being does not utilize his human life to cross the ocean of material existence, he must be considered a killer of his own soul. To deprive someone of the chance to advance spiritually in Krishna consciousness, that precisely is the definition of violence. Simply not killing is not non-violence, because anyway we cannot be killed. So by abortion, what is happening is a soul is getting a chance to get a human life, which affords him the chance to become Krishna conscious, but you are stopping him from that. It's a very, very grave crime. What happens if the mother aborts the child? What actually happens? Bhagavad Gita says, Mudha grahenatmano yat pidaya kriyate tapah parasyotsādanārtham va tattamasamudahritam. Penance performed out of foolishness with self-torture or to destroy or injure others is said to be in the mode of ignorance. It's a penance for even the mother to undergo this abortion. There is so much cramping, there is so much pain, there is bleeding, there is a lot of mental trauma that is associated with this, there is self-torture, and it's destroying the child. That is tamasic. So what is wrong with being tamasic, mode of ignorance? The Bhagavad Gita says, what is the destination of those who are tamasic? Urdhvam gachanti satvastha madhye tishthanti rajasaha jaghanya guna vrittisthaha adho gachanti tamasaha. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds. Ashastra vihitam ghoram tapyante ye tapojanaha दंभाहंकार संयुक्ताः काम रागबलान्विताः कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्रामम् अचेतसः मां चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्. Those who undergo severe austerities and penances not recommended in the scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism. It is actually pride. My life matters. My child's life does not matter. My happiness matters. Let the child be killed. I will pay someone and kill my child. That's what it actually is. Now you may say, no, that's not how mothers who abort think. It does not matter, because the effect is that. Ultimately, they're choosing their own life and killing the other. The effect is that. It does not matter how they thought about it. But the end result is that. Those who undergo severe austerities and penances not recommended in the scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment. They're impelled by lust. They're having sex for no rhyme and reason and then aborting the child. Impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish, who don't have this knowledge, and who torture the material elements of the body, as well as the super soul dwelling within, are to be known as demons. Even the Paramatma is getting hurt inside, that, I'm giving the chance to, to this child, and then they are killing. The mother is killing. So they are known as demons. She's no more mother, she's a demon. What happens to such demons? Tanaham dvishatah kruran samsareshu naradhaman kshipam yajasram ashubhan asurishveva yonishu. Those who are envious and cruel, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. So this is another thing that is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam 6:16-14. Bala hatya hata prabha. Even in this life, killing the child will cause the woman to lose all bodily luster. No tejas anymore. And in fact, in India, abortion was legalized in 1971 during her tenure, Indira Gandhi's tenure. So she's not only responsible for her own abortions, but also for the abortions of the billions of people who did that in her time and even now, and for however long that may last. And this is what Srila Prabhupada had to say about Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi was going to the hospital for abortion twice in a year. We don't wish to discuss, but she has no culture, no character, and she's leader. Whatever she says, that is final. And this was the so-called leader who not only committed abortion for herself, but also legalized abortion for the whole of Bharatvarsha. And in fact, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, for all the sins the citizens commit, 1/6 of the reaction is taken by the leader in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. She is in one way responsible for all the abortions that are happening in India, even now, from then on until now. Now, when she died, and it is very interesting to note that the manner in which she died, she was shot. 33 bullets were fired at her. 30 of them struck her. 23 of them went through the body. That means they came out on the other side. And 7 remained lodged in her body. You know where she was shot? Her abdomen and chest and thighs. That area, where is the uterus? That area. She was shot there. The majority of the bullets hit her in the abdomen. Look at how poignant and poetic that is. I'm not condoning anything here, but I'm just showing you how karma works. When we do the sin, it doesn't appear like much, but when it comes back real hard. The way in which she was shot just shows, and that's just the beginning. She's going to, go to hell and, suffer there even. It's not that I want her to go to hell or I'm just cursing. No, it's just how the law of karma works. It's just a factual explanation of how it works and showing you by example so that everyone takes this seriously and it's not a thing to play with. And I also urge, in the same vein, the government of India to take this up seriously and ban all kinds of abortion along with slaughterhouses. So this killing of humans and animals, this is going to backfire greatly in the future. No matter what measures we may take economically, educationally, culturally, this and that, but if this spiritual aspect is not reinstated according to the Shastric directions, scriptural directions, then I'm sorry, the future looks bleak. What is the atonement for a woman who has already committed an abortion? Srimad Bhagavatam 6:16-14 purport. In this verse, the word Bala Hatya Hata Prabha is to be particularly noted. The practice of killing children has existed in human society for a long time, since time immemorial. But in the days of yore, it was very rarely performed. At the present moment, however, in this age of Kali, abortion, the killing of child within the womb, has become very common, and sometimes the child is even killed after birth. If a woman performs such an abominable act, she gradually loses all her bodily luster. Bala Hatya Hata Prabha. It is also to be noted that the ladies who had committed the sinful act of administering poison to the child were very much ashamed, and according to the directions of the Brahmanas, they had to undergo atonement for killing the child. Any woman who has ever performed such an infamously sinful act must atone for it, but no one now is doing that. Under the circumstances, the women responsible must suffer in this life and the next. Those who are sincere souls, after hearing this incident, should refrain from such child killing and should atone for their sinful activities by taking to Krishna consciousness very seriously. If one chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra without offenses, all of one's sinful actions are surely atoned for immediately, but one should not commit such deeds again, for that is an offense. If anybody has already done it, they have to start chanting Hare Krishna, read Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, become a nice devotee, never to repeat that, and sincerely repent of their action. And preach it everywhere. In fact, if one becomes a devotee, if one reads Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, automatically he will not do these things. Because, you see, they will know everything just by learning this science. You will learn so many things. This is just one of the many things you will learn just by reading these scriptures. Get a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, get a copy of the Srimad Bhagavatam from any Hare Krishna temple near you and read them every day, at least 1 hour. Your life will be perfect. Krishna gives double assurance. Sarva dharman parityajyam mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. Lord Krishna says, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions do not fear. Whatever sinful action you have committed before, I will absolve you of every one of those things. But don't repeat again. And you cannot think, okay, I will surrender to Krishna. I'll just commit this one abortion. After that, I'll fully surrender to Krishna. No. Once you know, Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 26th chapter, 3rd verse, it is said, those who do not know and commit this sin, they are punished in the hell. Those who know and commit, they'll be punished far greater. Don't try to cheat Krishna. Krishna is the greatest cheater. Nobody can cheat better than him. So he will cheat you, you will be cheated in the end. I think we should be very sincere in our purpose and try to understand the science and conduct ourselves accordingly. Now, can abortion be justified under certain circumstances?
Women take every possible precaution to ensure that they do not have to undergo an abortion ever. But unwanted pregnancies are a reality of life, as is failed birth control and rape. Do you know what else is a reality? Choice. Choices that are not easy, but a woman has to make. There are times a woman chooses to discontinue her pregnancy because of unforeseen economic or social conditions like a job loss, a death in the family, the death of a partner. Situations like these leave women physically, mentally, or financially unprepared to raise a child. There are times her health does not permit it. Complications during pregnancy are normal, and sometimes a woman is just not ready for a pregnancy.
Let's list those down. What to do in the following situations? Failed contraception between wedded couples. I have actually expanded upon some of these ideas that she has mentioned. Unwed couple, young adolescents, adults, never married. Extramarital affair. Economic and social constraints. Mother's health complications during pregnancy. Fetal anomalies. Just not ready for pregnancy. That's the worst. And finally, rape. So let's explore each one of these scenarios, and can we consider that abortion can be a solution to any of these? Okay, first, failed contraception between wedded couples. Then we should understand that it is God's desire. Krishna's desire should be respected and accepted. Now we know that he has the right to live from the time of conception. Murder is completely out of the question. Contraception itself is sinful because it violates God's law and leads to painful consequences both in this life and the next. There are many risks to contraceptives as well, and it violates God's law. That's the most important thing. It violates Krishna's law. Sex is made for reproduction. Krishna says, Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshabha. That sex life, which is not against religious principles, is a representation of him, is authorized by him. If one does not want children, one should just abstain from having sex. And real contraception means no sex unless committed to raising a child and raising him to Krishna consciousness. That is the ultimate contraception. But at least raise the child. Even if you can't, because we don't expect everyone to become devotees of Krishna. So at least give birth to the child. Then maybe he will contact the devotee somehow or other at some stage in his life and then get purified. But if the parents can do it themselves, raise them to Krishna consciousness, that's the perfect situation. And if the parents do not bring him to Krishna consciousness, then they are also not doing their duty. They will be a little bit punished for that. But worse is not to even allow the child to take birth. So Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Upadrashta Anumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwarah paramatmeti chapyukto dehesmin purushah parah. In this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter and who is known as the super soul. In the Constitution of India, I've seen those clauses. Right to privacy of the woman allows her to abort. Or nobody needs to know. She can do it in private without consulting anyone. Hello, there's no such thing as private. The Lord knows every single damn thing we are doing. He will ensure that we will be punished for our actions. Sarvatah pani padam tat sarvatokshi shiromukham sarvatah shruti sarvam avritya tishtati. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul or Paramatma exists, pervading everything. So the best thing for us to do is not to engage or indulge in illicit sex life, but how to control ourselves. I can try not to have sex, but if my mind is running for it, how can I stop? That's a valid question for many, right? So Bhagavad Gita answers this. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasasmaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mithyacharah sa uchyate. One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender. Is that not a hypocritical life? What is the solution? How to actually abstain from sex life if I don't want to have children? This is the answer. Bhagavad Gita 259. Vishayavini vartante nirahara sadehinah rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements or stopping such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. In this material world, sex life is called Adirasa, the highest enjoyment. We have to have a higher taste, a higher enjoyment than that, in order for us to get the strength to abstain from sex life. And what is that higher thing? Krishna consciousness. To become a devotee of Krishna, the happiness that we get from that, the meaning, the purpose, the fulfillment, the absolute ecstasy that we get from really understanding Krishna consciousness and engaging in it is so far higher than mundane sex life that in fact there is an acharya who says, Yadavadhi mama chetah Krishna padaravinde Nava Nava Rasadhaman Yudyatam Rantumasit Tadavadhabatanare Sangame Smaryamane Bhavati Mukha Vikarah Sushtu Nishtevanam Cha. He said, ever since I have come to Krishna consciousness, it is so enjoyable that every moment I am tasting newer and newer taste. And after having tasted this, whenever the thought of sex life with a woman comes to the mind, my mind at once turns from it and spits at the very thought. Then one may say, oh, if everybody does that, then the whole world will stop, there will be no more generation. No, not everybody will take to it. And even if those who are Krishna conscious, they can engage in responsible sex life in bringing forth population which is Krishna conscious, which actually will make the whole world a better place. The whole world is in problems at all levels because people are raised wrong. They're not God conscious. That's why the whole world is in a problem. If everyone is raised in a God conscious manner, the whole world will be like the spiritual world, Vaikuntha. No more problems. Fully peaceful and happy, joyful. So this is the solution, that one must become Krishna conscious. Next, unwed pregnancy. What if now they are not married? Adolescent young boy and girl came together and had sex and the girl became pregnant. What to do now? If the parents come to know, it'll be a huge war and big problems. So what to do? This has to be the recourse. The couple must take responsibility. Their parents should marry them to each other immediately and offer full support. This has to be done. The boy must not abandon and the girl must not abort to escape shame. Because you may escape shame, but you will never escape the hand of Yamaraj. The families will be shocked, but after some time, you know what? Let's get them married. That's the best way to solve this. If the boy leaves, the girl's family must support her and help raise the child, but no killing. Even if the child may be later given up for adoption, even that can be considered secondary consideration, but the killing should not happen. Above all, one must take to Krishna consciousness to be freed from sin and to raise the child in Krishna consciousness. Ideally, the boy should not leave, because if he leaves, he is also punished for his abandonment of duty. People may consider it shameful that they've already had sex before marriage. Well, there is one of the 8 vivaha procedures which starts with the sexual intercourse itself, and that is Gandharva marriage. So Brahmo Daivas Tathaivarsha Prajapatyas Tathanusaraha Gandharvo Rakshasas Paisasas Chashtamodhamaha. 8 kinds of marriage ceremonies. They are the rite of Brahma Vivaha, which is the most respectable, Daiva Vivaha, Arsha Vivaha, Prajapatya Vivaha, Asura Vivaha, Gandharva Vivaha, Rakshasa Vivaha, and Paishacha Vivaha. In that, I'm just describing the Gandharva Vivaha. Ichchaya Anyonya Samyoga, Kanyayascha Varasya Gandharvaha Satu Vigneyo Maithunyaha Kama Sambhava. The voluntary union of a maiden and her lover by sexual intercourse, one must know to be the Gandharva rite of marriage, which springs from mutual agreement. In a situation like that, one has to just get them married and let them continue with their life with responsibility, instead of thinking that this is all bad. It is much worse to go against the dharma. At least this Gandharva Vivaha is within the precincts of Vedic injunctions. But to kill a child is completely sinful. If we are caught in a situation where it's like a dharma sankat, dharmic dilemma, we have to choose what is less sinful. So this is far less sinful because it is already kind of, it's not the most ideal, but it can be adjusted. But this cannot be adjusted. The killing of a child cannot be undone. Extramarital affair. This is very difficult. Extramarital. Difficult means difficult situation. It is wrong in every way. One should not have done it at all. The spouse, the children, extended family, friends, society in general, everybody will be disturbed by this. Many unintended consequences. So this thing is very horrible. But if it is already done, one should not further increase the stock of sins by murdering the child. Suppose if a person has already committed this act, extramarital sex, and the woman got pregnant, and maybe the woman had her own family, the man has his own family, and then they got together and then they had a child together. Now, if they kill the child, they have to pay for, already this is a sin, extramarital affair. On top of that, the sin of murder also comes upon both. So whatever shame that will be associated with shame, disgust, or whatever pain or suffering that comes with such an extramarital affair, one should go through that but not kill the child. Don't add to it by making it even worse, because people generally think, okay, extramarital affair, pregnant, oh no, kill the child so that nobody will know. Okay, you can escape, you may fool these people. Are you going to fool God? Who is ultimately going to punish you? Krishna will punish. So the best way is to repent, to family members, and get the child delivered and make some kind of arrangement either within the family or give up for adoption, whatever it is. Let the child live. Give the child a chance. Don't kill. Above all, one must take to Krishna consciousness to be freed from the sin and should give up all sinful life. This is the recourse to be taken if such an incident has already happened. It's painful, it's very difficult, yeah, but it's more difficult if one kills the child. So one should never kill the child, even if it's an extramarital affair. Don't even go there. But if it happens at all for anyone, if you have to consult anyone, if you have to do it within the framework of the Shastra, Vedic scriptures, this is the framework we have to follow. Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi. I am sex life which is not contrary to religious principles. So I have to follow that. Now, if one thinks that no, let me commit abortion, nobody will know. Krishna will know. And there's another beautiful verse in Mahabharata, a very haunting verse. Yatha dhenu sahasreshu vatso gacchati mataram tatha yachakritam karma kartaram anugacchati. Amongst thousands of cows, the calf finds its own mother cow. Similarly, the results of our past deeds, when fully ripened, will find us without fail. It's a haunting verse. Do not ever try to do something in secrecy. Oh, nobody knows. The Lord knows far too well. So best thing is, if it at all happened, or if you know somebody who has done such a thing, one should give this as the advice. Become Krishna conscious, don't abort, take the responsibility, take all the chastisement that comes from all family members, friends, relatives, everyone, everywhere, or even legal case, whatever it is, go through all of that as an atonement, but never kill the child. Don't add to your stock of sins by killing the child. Yasman nodvijate loko lokan nodvijate chayah sachame priyah. Sri Krishna says, he by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone is very dear to me. So we should not put anyone into difficulty. In two levels, this is applicable. One should not engage in extramarital affairs and put everyone in difficulty, oneself and others. But also, if it has at all happened, don't put the child into difficulty by killing the child. Economic and social constraints. If one has economic and social constraints, which can be very nebulous, anyone can term anything as an economic or social constraint. Job loss, death of a loved one, death of a partner, they leave women physically, mentally, and financially unprepared to raise a child. This is what she said. Well, can you give the same explanation if you already have a born child? Suppose the child is 2 years old. Oh, my death of a loved one, my husband passed away, I'll kill my child also. Is that justified? Economic and social conditions, no? Why not? Unprepared to raise the child, I'll kill the child. It's not allowed. Then why is it allowed when it's in the womb of the mother? Where is the logic? Brainless nonsense. In this case, family, friends, community should help in one way or another. Conversations must be had with trustworthy people and solutions should be found. And if we talk and if we have a will, there is a way. If we think about how to do it, we can do it. Oh, I don't want to do it, don't want to even explore. Okay, then explore Yamalok. You can explore Narak, hell. Keep always dharma in mind, not your convenience, not your sense gratification, your whims. That should never be the driving factor. Dharma should be the driving factor. Solve the problem by having conversations with trustworthy people and find out some solutions. Something will happen. Something can be arranged. Krishna will give intelligence. Krishna will give resources. If we want to stick to dharma, dharmo rakshati rakshitaha, Mahabharata says, Manusmriti says, if we protect dharma by following dharmic principle, then dharma, that very dharma will protect us. Become Krishna conscious and become strong to face that situation, because Krishna will reward one's adherence to dharma. Vetti yatra na chaivayam sthitas chalati tattvataha yam labdhva chaparam labham manyate nadhikam tataha yasmin sthito na dukhena guruna api vichalyate. established thus in Krishna consciousness, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. So this is how strong you will become when you become Krishna conscious. So become Krishna conscious. How to become Krishna conscious? Chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra on the beads every single day. Read Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Read them. You will become extremely strong. Krishna will give you all strength, all blessings. Next, mother's health complications during pregnancy. 0.2% of pregnancies are affected by this. It's a very, very small fraction, but it is there. Life-threatening or serious complications with pregnancy. Now, one thing we should remember, whenever there is any difficulty in life, you should know that that is a test of our adherence to dharma. In this situation, we should understand that when the mother's life is in danger, whether the mother survives or whether the child survives or whether both survive or whether both die, whatever it is, the outcome must be left to Krishna, and all efforts should go towards protecting the life of both of them. I have some good news for you in this regard. There have been technologies, training and funding in this direction. I will show you in a bit. But I would like to lay down the principle first that we should never resort to adharma in order to save oneself. Because nobody can be saved by adharma. And when we say save, we're not talking about the body. In the course of administering or adhering to dharma, our body may perish, but the soul lives on, the atma lives on, and he goes on to take another body. So we should not forget that aspect of our journey. And in this regard, it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat svanushthitat swadharme nidhanam shreyah paradharmo bhayavaha. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties even though faultily than another's duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duty, for to follow another's path is dangerous. So you see that highlighted bit? Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better. What we should always adhere to is our duty. Whether we will be alive or dead, that's immaterial. That's the instruction of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna asked Arjuna to fight. He did not assure him victory. He said, whether you win this battle or whether you die fighting, you will be glorious, you will be rewarded. Either way, there is no loss for you. Because if you win the battle, then you can enjoy this earthly kingdom. And if you die fighting, you will go to heavenly planets and enjoy there. So either in this life or in the next, there is no fear of any loss for one who adheres and sticks to the principle of dharma in all cases. That's very important. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 2nd chapter, 47th verse, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhur ma te sangostva karmani. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities and never be attached to not doing your duty. We have the right to perform the duty, and we should never be attached to not doing our duty. The results, the fruits of their action, we are not entitled. Whatever has to happen will happen. Regardless, we have to stick to our duty. Not that, oh, if I stick to my duty, the intended results will show up. Not necessarily. Whatever happens, we should not associate our adherence to duty to the result that comes out. Whether it comes out or not, we have to stick to the duty. Oh, I stuck to the duty, but the result was a reversal. So I think there is no point sticking to the duty. That's the wrong conclusion. Karma is like a credit card. When you have a credit card, you can spend whatever you want. Yeah, it seems like you're enjoying in the moment. But when the bill comes, it comes with the principal and interest, not just simple interest, compound interest. At the end of the day, at the end of our life, this is what will save us. Dharmo vittam niranam pretya, Srimad Bhagavatam says. The merit of the religious duties performed in this life is the wealth of those who are passing away from this world. So whatever dharma we have done in this life, that will be our asset. And whatever karma we have done in our life, that will be our liability for our next life. In the Manusmriti and the Mahabharata, there is this verse, Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. If we protect dharma by following the principles of dharma, we will be protected by dharma, because that will be our protection. That will be our insurance against hellish life, against fall downs, and that will protect our way back to Godhead eventually. Here is that same Dr. Anthony Levatino. Okay, let's take a listen.
We need abortion to save women's lives. Hear it all the time.
For 9 years, I worked at a medical center where it's what's called a tertiary referral center. It's a hospital that is equipped with the doctors and the equipment to take care of high-risk pregnancies. We don't do this in every hospital because it's too expensive. So we have centers where this occurs all through the country. And where I worked was a tertiary referral center. And for 9 years, as a pro-life obstetrician gynecologist, I worked in a medical center like this. I saw it all. I mean, severe heart disease, cancers, out-of-control diabetes, preeclampsia. I mean, these are dangerous pregnancies. Pregnancy can be very dangerous. But there's a point to be made about this. We need abortion to save women's lives, really. The vast majority of times that a pregnancy becomes dangerous to a woman with many of these conditions. There are a few cases early in pregnancy, we can talk about those. But the vast, vast, vast number of these cases occur after 22 weeks when the baby's viable. I have as a pro-life obstetrician gynecologist and almost 10 years of experience in a tertiary medical center, I have terminated, i.e. ended, hundreds of pregnancies to save women's lives. How many babies did I have to deliberately kill in the process? None, not even one. It's called delivery. When the lady comes in, for instance, with that preeclampsia patient, 27 weeks pregnant, real case. Her blood pressure is 220 over 160. And we've got to get her delivered now because the only way to cure preeclampsia is to end the pregnancy. We're going to deliver this baby by cesarean section because it would be fast. I can do that within an hour. And we're going to take care of the both of them, and we're going to just have to leave it in God's hands. And we did exactly that. We stabilized her, delivered her, and she and the baby ultimately did great.
There you have it. There are solutions even for high-risk pregnancies, and governments all over the world should invest in technologies and training like this to take care of situations which are high-risk pregnancies. This is proper use of technology, not how to kill, but how to save. Next, fetal anomalies. What if there is something wrong with the fetus? Something is off, which may suggest that the child may be physically or mentally handicapped. What if those things are found in the scan? Firstly, fetal anomalies are at 1.3% of the total pregnancies. Many times, they may not even be true because sometimes these scans can be not accurate. In fact, this is a real case. We have a devotee who has 2 children, 2 daughters. And both the times when she was pregnant, she was told that there was something wrong with the child. Did not listen, just went through with the pregnancy because they suggested abortion. They went through with the pregnancy and both children are perfectly fine. No problem whatsoever. That's why these scans, why these scans are even done? So that people can decide whether to abort or not. First of all, unnecessary anxiety, that is that. And even if it's true, the commitment, once the conception happened, there is the commitment that this child has to be protected. That's it, finished. Just like if there is a defect in the child after he's born, you cannot kill him. Similarly, you cannot kill the child even in the womb, even if there's a defect or not. Doesn't matter. One have to just accept it as one's karma and become Krishna conscious to become strong. How to face it and how to give benefit even to that child, whether physical or whatever may be the case, mental derangement or whatever. So 2 things. It'll be difficult for the parents may think, it'll be difficult for us to raise the child and take care of our lives like this, so better just kill the child. Let's just abort. So considering their own difficulty. And sometimes they think, I don't want to bring into this world a child who would suffer with that kind of abnormalities. Well, if there are actually physical anomalies, there is suffering for the child, no doubt. But if that soul had to go through that experience due to his or her past karma, then the child has to go through. By aborting, you're not going to save that soul from going through that experience. But what you're doing is, because in the next life she will get another chance to go through the same experience. Until she goes through that experience, she or he will not get out of that. So that has to happen. Whatever has to happen will happen. But by trying to escape that, one commits murder and one will be heavily punished for that. But if it's mentally handicapped, retarded, then these verses are there. If we think that the child would suffer such a life, Dvaveva chintaya muktau paramananda aplutau yo vimugdho jado balo yogunebhyah param gataha. In this world, 2 types of people are free from all anxiety and merged in great happiness. One who is a retarded and childish fool, and one who has approached the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the 3 modes of material nature. Everybody else is in suffering. So the retarded fool is actually not in suffering. The parents have to think that if we are getting this kind of a child, then we have to undergo that karma, whatever our past, and fulfill the requirement. And in the meantime, the child can be given prasadam and he can be made to hear Harinam. And sometimes they are physically disabled, but mentally they may be actually sharp. They can become devotees and can be great role models even for others. One should never try to escape the situation by abortion. Such activity does not absolve one of the reaction to be in a situation to care for a handicapped person. See, that's another thing. If the parents think that, oh, it's something wrong just about the child, they will not be absolved from that responsibility. That they have to take care of such a child will definitely happen, either in this life or the next life or the next pregnancy or whatever. It will happen. But now, to add to that, they have the karma of murder of the child if they abort. So don't do that. Don't do that. We should become devotees and we should think like this. Tattenu kampam susamikshamano bhunjana evatmakritam vipakam hridvagva purbhirvidadhan namaste jivetayo mukti pade sadaya bhak. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Next, this is the worst. Just not ready for pregnancy. Okay, then the fix is easy. Don't have sex. Whimsical killing for uncontrolled sex is heavily punished by the laws of karma. If there is pregnancy, then there has to be every attempt to develop the child into a full adult, and that too by responsibly training him to be Krishna conscious. Last, rape or incest. This is a difficult situation, right? How common is this? According to these statistics, 0.3% of the total pregnancies are rape or incest. But what if it happens and one is a victim of rape or incest? The perpetrator must be given the death penalty, and my opinion is that he should not just be given death penalty with a simple death. He should be publicly slow tortured to death. That's my opinion, but yeah. So it has to be a strong deterrent for everyone, and let that person suffer so bad. Let him see all the hellish planets in one before he dies. Be absolutely no mercy. You know what happens? The rapist sometimes, many a time, may live on, but the child, if the woman becomes pregnant, is given the death penalty. The child in this situation is innocent. Of course, it is his past karma that he was conceived from such a relationship through a rape. But in this scenario, he is innocent. The child is innocent. So he should not be given the death penalty by abortion. Now, it will be difficult, of course, for the woman, absolutely difficult for the woman to face this situation. People may actually become angry with me for saying this, that the woman has to bear the child, that I'm being insensitive. No, I'm being very, very sensitive and I'm being very sensible. And please hear it out with a cool head, because nothing happens by accident. A rapist, in order to pay back, will take birth as a woman and be raped. So if today a woman is raped, despite all alertness and vigilance by the authorities and whatever, somehow or other a woman gets raped. Some past karma of the woman is causing that. Now, if to add to that, if the woman kills the child, then the woman will have to suffer even more than what she's already suffering. So it can be very possible that a rapist in a past life may be born as a woman to be raped in this life. So it is difficult, very hard to digest these things. The truth is the truth. My business here is to tell the truth, how karma works. I'm not here to pander to anyone. I'm not here to condemn anyone. I'm not here to criticize anyone. I'm just telling the facts. This is how it works. From the Shastra, we understand this. And as hard of a pill as it is to swallow, we have to swallow it. The woman should still raise the child or give the child up for adoption. Family and government should help in this situation, but should not encourage abortion. That will make her life just absolutely miserable. Much more miserable than it already is. So be always on the side of dharma in any situation. Don't choose adharma for convenience. However pressing the situation may be, one should stick to dharma. The results of our past deeds, when fully ripened, will find us without fail. We should not counter one sinful activity with another sinful activity directed against a soul that has nothing to do with the sin committed. The child has nothing to do with the sin committed. He did not do that sin. To counteract one suffering, if we put somebody else into suffering, who's not even connected with the crime, how is that a proper justice dispensation? That's not proper dispensation of justice at all. So for that, we have to be punished. One example of such a birth is Salabega, a great devotee of Jagannath. He was the son of a Hindu widow who was forcibly abducted and kept by a Muslim subedar, a commissioned government officer, and he was born. And she raised him and all. and eventually become a great devotee. So one can even do that. One can raise the child and make the child a great devotee. There is more to this. Become Krishna conscious in order to get strength to get through this situation and give a good life to the child as well, raising him or her in Krishna consciousness. If that cannot be done, then the child has to be given up for adoption, but not killed. The future husband of a raped woman has to be compassionate and support her. Of course, she has to be a good woman for him to be able to do that. So if at all she gets married eventually to a man, then if this history is there, usually, man, he doesn't want to marry. But if she's a good woman and then, she has done the right thing, then she has to be given full support. And it's a difficult situation. I'm not saying it's easy, but this is something that has to be done. So if anything like this happens, one has to become a devotee, and then one will get strength to get through this and give a Krishna conscious life to the child and oneself, and be a worthy wife to someone who is willing to take charge of such a situation. Just stick to dharma. In all cases, stick to dharma. You will never go wrong. This is the most logical path. Everything else is illogical. You cannot have a proper logic to advocate for any other course of action other than this. Okay, government should implement appropriate measures, policy and education. Now, for long-term stability of the society, government should implement appropriate measures by implementing policy and educating the mass of people. So the policies are a ban on abortion, a complete ban on abortion in all cases whatsoever, coupled with effective vigilance and severe penalty for clandestine abortion practices. This has to happen. Public torture to death style of execution for rapists should be made the norm, thus offering a powerful deterrent. Pornography industry should be banned with heavy vigilance and punishment for transgressors. Any sensual content should be banned. Perverted sexual literature should be banned. Dress code for women must be modest and decent. Women should be outdoors with men they trust, not alone. Even if there is effective police vigilance, there can happen some dangerous situation. So best is to be with a man or men whom the woman trusts whenever going out. Now, the next thing is education. The enactment of state laws cannot make a thief an honest man because his heart is polluted. Because even if you ban all these other things, if the heart is polluted, he will find some or other way to do whatever the thing he wants to do. So, on one side, there has to be those punishments for transgression. But on the positive side, there has to be education, and a higher taste of life should be offered to the people so that they don't have these kinds of thoughts. So therefore, complementing the punishment, there should be a spiritual program for the heart cleansing of the mass population through the congregational chanting of Krishna's holy names and the organized dissemination of the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in schools and colleges, as well as in the professional settings, to bring about a revolution in the contaminated hearts of this world's misdirected civilization. So this has to happen. And government may not be fully equipped for this. So they have to support organizations which are equipped to do this or which are willing to do this. And they have to, of course, have to conduct it from the Shastras. Our Hare Krishna movement is well equipped to do this. So the government should actually support our activity so that we can stabilize the society with proper education and culture. Because if people are on the level of animals, we cannot expect any civilized behavior from them. Ahara nidra bhayamaitunam cha samanyametat pashubhir naranam dharmo hitesham adhiko vishesho dharme nahina pashubhir samana. If we are pashubhir samana, if we are as good as animals, engaging in eating, sleeping, mating and defending, if there is no God consciousness, then we cannot have civilized behavior, we cannot have decent behavior. We will resort to animalistic tendencies. And animalistic tendencies plus human intelligence is a disastrous consequence. We have to raise them to human standard, and that means dharma has to be introduced. This secular government, secular kind of running is useless for all practical purposes. It cannot cleanse the heart of the conditioned soul. Krishna consciousness has to be administered to the people in general through the simple processes of hearing and chanting and distribution of prasadam. That's it. And this culture has to start from the very tender age of 5 years old. Srimad Bhagavatam recommends Kaumara acharet prajño dharman bhagavataniha durlabham manusham janma tadapyadhruvamarthadam. One who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life, in other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life, one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. So one should be given this chance from the tender age of 5 years old, Kaumara. It is at that age that we start going to school, even before that, even 4 years, 3 years old. So that is the age one has to start Bhagavad Dharma, Krishna consciousness. Simple process, chanting, dancing, hearing nice philosophy, and eating nice prasadam. These things will completely solve all problems of human life. See, prasadam should be distributed. Ahara shuddhau sattva shuddhihi, sattva shuddhau dhruva smritihi, smritilambhe sarvagranthinaam vipramokshaha. By performance of yajna or sacrifice, sankirtan yajna, one's eatables become sanctified. By offering food to Krishna, one's eatables become sanctified. And by eating sanctified foodstuffs, one's very existence becomes purified. By the purification of existence, finer tissues in the memory become sanctified. And when memory is sanctified, one can think of the path of liberation. And all these combined together lead to Krishna consciousness, the great necessity of present day society. So this is about hearing Krishna Katha. Krishna Katha, hearing, there has to be facility for everybody to hear. In schools, colleges, professional settings, and even the temples, everywhere, this culture should be propagated. Because you see, this is how cleansing of the heart happens. Shranvatam svakathaha Krishnaha punya shravana kirtanaha hridyantah sthohya bhadrani vidhunoti suhrit satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul, in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Then what happens? Nashta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishthiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by reading the Srimad Bhagavatam book itself and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service under the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. That's what happens when we hear Bhagavatam. Then what happens? Tada rajastamo bhavaha kamalo bhadayaschaye cheta etair anavidham sthitam sattve prasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. This lust is causing us the greatest problem. It's our greatest enemy. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says lust is our greatest enemy. It causes us to do disastrous things. Lust leads to sexual relationships, which leads to pregnancy, which leads to abortion. So lust has led one to commit murder of a child, of his own child. Lust has given rise to madness in the end. Lust is our greatest enemy, Krishna says. Vidhyenam meha vairinam. But that lust, which is born of Rajogun and Tamogun, this lust, desire, and hankering disappear from the heart because one comes to mode of goodness, Sattvagunam, by hearing Bhagavatam. So this is the process for cleansing the heart. Then what happens? Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. So he becomes totally happy in God consciousness, Krishna consciousness, and he becomes totally enlivened and gains scientific positive knowledge of God, and he becomes liberated from this material association, which is the goal of human life, not to run after animalistic tendencies and become entangled in horrible sinful activities. Bhidyate hridaya grantes chidyante sarva samshayah kshiyante chasa karmani drishta evatmanishvare. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced and all misgivings are cut to pieces. These misgivings, these misconceptions, misconstrued ideas are all cut to pieces. We can see things as they are. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated. Our karma will be finished by reading Bhagavatam. When one sees the self as master, then we become a Goswami, controller of our senses. But then we become complete proper servants of Krishna. This is the way forward for all of civilization. Now, Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971, India. So, unfortunately, Palki Sharma credits India for legalizing abortion. This is what she has to say.
India is a shining star when it comes to abortion rights. Women are allowed to abort up till 24 weeks of pregnancy.
So, unfortunately, in 1971, during the tenure of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, this abortion was legalized. Apparently, she also had a few abortions, and eventually, even in as recent as 2021, this act was amended, and from 20 weeks to 24 weeks, it is allowed for certain cases for women, the allowance for abortion. India is supposed to be the beacon of light, of knowledge for the entire world, and all these shastras, all these Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken in India, Bhagavad Gita was spoken in India. After all that, if India is leading with this kind of example, of allowing abortion, this is very, very bad. In fact, India should ban abortion in all cases, and I have made a case for every single possible situation how one can tread the dharmic path, righteous path in any situation, and one need not commit abortion at all. And one should not commit abortion because it will only entangle one in greater sinful activities. Considering all the points that I have made, governments all across the world should terminate abortion as quickly as possible and ban it all over. And more importantly, educate everyone on how to actually live a life properly according to the commandments of Krishna, according to the commandments of God. So then we will have a better life. Otherwise, if we're going to do this hush-hush nonsense, we cannot have a peaceful life. Sometimes we cannot explain things, why certain horrible things happen, like a plane crash or a terrorist strike or whatever, people die. Why these things are happening? Because we're doing something hiding or, eating meat. These kind of sinful activities will accumulate and we will have to face all the reactions for these things. So all this has to be understood, and this can be easily understood by anyone and everyone if one starts reading Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. These two books will solve all the problems of human race. I wanted to cover this topic because it's the largest genocide known to man. Every single year, 73 million human beings are dying, and it's not even counted for, and it's just completely under the carpet, and it's going on. This has to stop. People must be educated in what is the actual goal of life and what is how to conduct ourselves. All right, thank you for your time. Share this with as many people as possible so that everyone is educated. Because it's not enough that you alone are educated in this, because your neighbor or your colleague or your friend or someone, their friend or their relative, someone may commit this heinous sin of killing their own child and pay heavily for those, heavy consequences for those actions. So please share it widely, because this is very rampant all across the world, and everyone, even otherwise very benign and very kind people, are resorting to such cruel acts like abortion because of lack of this knowledge. But lack of knowledge does not guarantee one the lack of punishment. In fact, the law of karma does not wait for our enlightenment. It will act nonetheless. So even if people commit in ignorance this abortion, they will be punished, and punished very heavily. Everyone must be educated in this, and please therefore share this with everyone you know and everyone you love. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.